listening carefully to whatever music and absorb it. And then when it's time for you to express it out, you have all this that, got in you. And for me, it's like, it's the more you listen to, and the better it will be for you to express in your own way. Then, you know what I mean? You
Right.
just mix everything you absorb, and then try to let it out your own way. And that's what I pretty much try to do. I remember, I think it's J.D. Lee in his last book, that say that if you're doing a prog band, you should at least has 100 influences, because if you have 100 influences, your band have chances to sound good. If you have 3 influences, your band will sound like shit. And that's the idea. The
Yeah.
more you absorb, and the more you can, it opens your mind. And you do, even if you do your own style or music or whatever.
Yeah, it all makes sense to me because I just like you, I cover all my bases with just about all kinds of music except for like, pop country or something shit like that.
Yeah, there are limits,
Yes, definitely the limit.
yeah. I love. I mean, I fell into Jaco Pastorius a little while back, and I'm a huge fan of his music and the people he played with, because they're all very, geniuses. But it's very interesting because it gives you a different approach on how they approach music in jazz in general. And it's very interesting to analyze that, to understand it, and try to play along, and even try to incorporate that in your own style,
Right.
in your own way. And that's what I try to do. There are some very epic, almost improvised stuff that comes directly from the jazz guys
Hmm.
and the jazz way of thinking, along with Pink Floyd and yeah.
Did you by any chance watch the Jaco Pastorius documentary that Robert Trujillo of Metallica?
I have it.
Oh,
I have the movie. Yeah, I have.
oh, it's so great, so
It's a
great.
great movie, and
And
I'm very. I can tell you that when I heard that Trujillo did that for Pastorius, because I mean he has now the money to do that, and it's good for him. And but not many did that, and he did it,
yeah,
and he's. I mean, I got a lot of respect for what he did on this, because it's purely for the music and purely for the guy.
absolutely.
Nothing else. He didn't do it to get more fame or more money. He doesn't need it. But he did it because he loved Pastorius, and he loved what he did, and he thought that this needed to be done, and that's great. I mean, the way he did it was. I mean, I love the movie. I watch it pretty often.
Yeah, that's one of those movies where you've if you're if you're a musician or if you're just a music lover,
Yeah,
music addict, and you've heard about the legacy that is Jaco Pastorius, you have to watch that movie just to
that's right.
get just to get a glimpse of what it was like to be in that guy's presence. And he was amazing,
He was.
and just an amazing life story.
Indeed, and very very spiritual in a way. Pastorius, I see him as a almost like I don't know, one kind of a man that these kind of things don't happen very often. I mean, that kind of geniuses don't come very often, and I think he's. Some people say that, but I agree with them. He's on top, like with Mozart and all these
Oh
geniuses
yeah,
that changed music forever. I
I
think
agree.
Pastorius is there.
Yes.
He's up there. Um, is such a genius. He was able to do and play, and he changed bass world forever. I mean, he took the bass and put it apart in a way that nobody did, and nobody did since then. He just put it apart in a way that it's very, very, yeah, almost shocking at the beginning, and then when you get into it, you understand what he was trying to do, and that's not that was not an easy task because um, he gave everything to his art, and even his own life just
Yeah.
was after music, and that's what that's what that's what make that he couldn't do it anymore. I mean, and he died ultimately after he had done what he was supposed to do.
Yeah, he accomplished a lot in a
For sure,
short amount of time.
for sure.
His contributions to just the bass playing to music
To
at
music,
large is just astonishing.
it is indeed,
I cannot come up with more adjectives to describe what he's done.
for
But
sure.
we're
And he was a bit like I see him a bit like the punk in the jazz community.
oh yeah,
The
yeah,
guy that, oh, that's what you used to do. Well, I won't do it. I will do my own way.
right,
And understand what you do, and that's what he did, and that's what pissed everybody off, because he was like, I understand what you did, and I can do it, but I will do my own way.
right.
And people were like, oh man, even the biggest jazz musicians back then couldn't say anything, because he had the level to jam with them as well, but he wanted to do his own thing, and that's crazy, man. There's not many people that did that in the
No, not at
history of
all.
music. Hendrix was one of them, but on the guitar. Yeah,
Yeah, we're 7 minutes in almost. We're having this conversation, and I didn't get to introduce you yet. This
sure.
is Monsieur Brice Leclerc. Is it?
Yep, that's right.
Uh, joining me, it's a little after 5 a.m. on my time.
Yeah, it's
But
a little later my time.
yeah, we had a little bit of technical issues yesterday because of the
Indeed,
incoming storm, but
that's right.
we're doing it now, and I couldn't be happier. Brice is the former bass player of Dissection, Satyricon. He has been there, done that. He just released his own From Chaos project, and
Yes,
it's absolutely amazing.
thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for coming on board,
Thank you
Brice.
for having me.
Yes. So, what I like to do is basically just get your incredible music journey, my friend,
Thank you.
from start to finish. So this episode is yours, please.
Oh, okay. You want me to tell you from the beginning how it all started and how I
Yes.
started playing music? Yep.
Yes, sir.
Um, it all started when I was about five years old, and I found Billy Idol, Rebel Yell, and ZZ Top, "Give Me All Your Loving"
Oh,
on
wow.
my father's stereo, and back in the 80s, it was in France. I mean, you didn't hear much of that in the radio, not in France. So when I found that, something happened in me. I mean, it started moving inside of me, and I couldn't stop listening, and I was listening over and over and over again, and I was hooked from this day. And then, of course, when I came to the age of 14, I started playing guitar. Um, I was starting to listen to more and more, harder stuff. I was already into AC/DC, Metallica, Maiden, and so on and so on. And I was getting into harder stuff and thrash metal. I remember Testament and Creator and all that. And then I started to learn guitar, and I fell into black metal when I was maybe I was young, 16 or something. And it was at the time where Opus Nocture just came out. So just to tell you around what time I starting to fall into black metal, it was when Opus Nocture came out. I remember, and I was the first album I listened to was "Do Something Light" from Marduk, and this album was like, oh man, what's that again? What's that? And something happened there as well. I mean, I felt at home when I listened to metal, but when I heard black metal, it was something else. It was something a step further. When it came to melody and atmospheres, and I liked very much all of that, and I found myself in it, and I kept listening to all my other bands on top of that. Then I moved to the US when I was 19. Yeah,
Oh
I
wow.
moved to Seattle when I was 19 years old, and I stayed in Seattle for 2 years almost. And I decided to play music, but on a professional level. And I decided to move to Sweden after that. So I came back to Europe, to France, and then I moved alone to Sweden. And there I met a few guys. First, I played in a band called Night Rage. I don't know if you
I think
heard
I
about
have.
that. There was I recorded bass. As I told you yesterday, they asked me. There were two great guitar players, and they asked me if I wanted to play bass, and I said yes. And it turned out that I liked it even more than guitar. So at this point, I sold all my guitar gig and bought myself basses and bass amp and all that. And it was around 2001 or two. Uh, and it was in a band called Night Rage, where it was Thomas Lindberg from At the Gates that was singing. There was Gus G that ended up in Ozzy Osbourne after that album actually,
Wow.
or a little later. And then it was Per Molle Jensen, the drummer from The Haunted, and then it was the guy from Night Rage that created the band on the guitar.
Is there anything recorded?
Yeah, oh
Oh
yeah.
shit. I need to get on this because I mean you
I'm on the
were
first one, yeah.
oh man. I need to definitely check that
And
out.
then since he was not my cup of tea, kind of, it was not exactly 100% what I wanted to play. I quit. I quit the band. Uh, I think Gus did it as well on the next album, um, and then I saw that Dissection had announced that they were looking for a bass player on their official website, and I was like, man, Dissection is by far my number one band, but I wouldn't even think that I could get in. So I had a friend that had a camera recorder, and he told me, man, just buy a tape and then send it. What do you have to lose? And I was like, yeah, you're right. I don't have much to lose. So I choose analog, and I played along, and then I recorded the tape, sent it, and I didn't think that I would get even a reply. And 1 week later, it didn't take much longer than that. 7 days later, John called me, and he's like, okay. And he told me, well, I like what I heard and saw, so I would like to meet you. And then I went up because he had permission to come out from prison every 15 days.
Oh wow.
So he was still in jail back then. And I went up, and we met, and we talked for 3 4 hours, even more. Only talk. We didn't play the first time. And he wanted to get to know me uh, really well, to first know that if I would fit in the band or not, and if we would work out on a personal level first. And it turned out that we got along very well. And he told me, "Do you want to audition?" Yeah. And 15 days later, he gave me like 4 or 5 tracks to work on, like the most, Dead Angels and Hannah and Storm, and all
Mhm.
the big thing. And I went up there 15 days later, and I met Thomas for the first time because he got in the band maybe a few weeks before me. But I didn't know him yet, and we met there, and then we did the audition. But the audition was more like a jam. I didn't feel like I was auditioning for a band. I mean, it felt like so natural, and we got along so well directly. And I remember we played Dead Angels, the first track, man, Dead Angels, and So I turned to John. I was like, "So what did you think?" And he smiled at me. He told me, "Man, just like a glove, just like a glove.
Just
Keep on playing. That's it."
yeah.
And we kept on playing, and on and on. And we played like 8 tracks or 9 tracks, and kept on playing. Um, it felt great right from the first second. Um, it felt like I was at home, and everybody heard that, and we were all very happy. And then the last part of the audition was me meeting a week later Thomas in the studio where we rehearsed. Um, and John called me and he told me, "Okay, mate, I did demo for most of the new album, but there is one track I cannot find the bass, and I'd like you to put the bass on it, and you do whatever you want. I don't care. Just do what you would do if you were
Right.
alone in the studio." And I'm like, "Okay." And it was Black Dragon, and
That's such a banger of a
yeah,
song, man.
yeah. And I heard the track, and I'm like, "Too much." Yeah, I hear a bass line, but I'm telling you, it's more like AC/DC than Dissection. You know what I mean? I'm not sure that it's gonna fit, and I'm not sure that John's gonna like it. And he's like, "Well, play what you feel." And I played, yeah, what you hear on pretty much on the album, and John loved it. He just loved it and told me it's exactly what I wanted. It's like the kind of bass playing I wanted for the new album, and it's spot on, man. Just perfect. And from there, we kept on playing. We kept on playing, and until the point where we didn't agree on the main decision around the band. And not on the musical point of view, but on the business point of view, manager and
Right, right.
label and all these questions. I had my idea on it, and we didn't agree. So since they wanted to release everything on their own, I thought that it would go to hell if we would do that, because we were good at playing music, but we were not good at doing business.
Yeah, that
That's
was
what.
everything that was everything under the, Black Horizon label that he
That's right. And then I even told John a few evenings. I tried to talk to him, and I told him, "Man, if we do that, I'm afraid it's gonna go to hell, and I'm afraid I cannot be part of something I know it's gonna go to hell. I cannot. It's like being on a boat that it's gonna sink. It's the same idea, and I had to go, and it took me 3 years. I didn't play bass for 3 years after I quit
Oh, wow.
Dissection, so it was not the easy way. I can tell you that it would have been a lot easier if I would have stayed in the band and just shut the fuck up and do my thing. But
Right.
I didn't. I didn't think it was right, and unfortunately for everybody, I was right, and it went to hell a year after that, financially at least. And John decided to end Dissection, um, and I don't really know at this point because I was not in the band, but I'm still in touch with Thomas. So that's Thomas that told me that, and then he took his life. Yeah, not so long after that, and that's not the end I would have liked to see. That's for sure. And I
Yeah.
think it's such a shame and such a waste of talent that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think the whole metal community and black metal community would definitely agree with you, on that statement. Uh, leading up to, our discussion here, I've been listening to a lot of, From Chaos, your project. I've been listening to a lot of old Dissection. I mean, I've always listened to Dissection, and I just cannot get over just how talented of a musician John was. I
Oh yeah,
mean,
oh yeah,
and
and natural. He was
very
not
yeah.
forcing it. He was not never forcing it. Never. I never saw John forcing it. It was very natural. Um, I think it was Internal Fire. He did it in one evening. He composed the track in one evening. He had some ideas, and I remember we were playing in the rehearsal place, and he was like, I knew when John had something, that he didn't find the right thing. He was like, man, yeah, no, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna lay something. I'm gonna try something on my own, and we stopped rehearsing, and the next day he came and he was like, it's ready. What? Yeah, I did the track, the entire track. Yeah, it's ready on the guitar. I did. Okay. And one evening, he was able to do one track like that, and the solo and everything.
I think
And
the one of the most attractive things for about dissection that I whenever I heard it at a young age, young teenager, was how he was able to incorporate all this like traditional folk finger playing, guitar playing skill, and just with straight like crushing groove with distorted guitars.
yeah,
I just loved it. I think that's what I hold that section in a very special place.
and plus he had a such and he was not forced again, but he had a special way of playing, and it's very very always very just and very he has the right touch on every note, and the vibrato and everything. It was always spot on and not forcing it, not for 1 second. I've rehearsed and played so many times with a guy. I can tell you, he didn't force it, never forced it. He played it
Yeah.
like he would talk, he would play. He didn't think, he just played. And the worst thing is he didn't like to sing so much, but he did it damn well, especially on Rain Chaos. I mean, the way he sings on Black Dragon, it's amazing. There's a lot of groove and everything, but he didn't like to do it. So we didn't rehearse. He didn't sing much when we rehearsed. He wouldn't sing. He would just play because that's what he liked to do most. And such a natural talent, and authentic. I've learned a lot. I told you that yesterday, but it's like a bit like a mentor. I've observed John a lot when I was 24 years old. I was not old. He was older than me, and I was kind of learning and observing how he was doing and how I was thinking and how he was playing, and not knowing, but I was just watching. And now that I started my own band, everything came up again, and I was like, yeah, that's how he used to do, and that's how he used to think, and that's how he used to,
Mhm.
he came back up, and I've learned a lot from him, I think.
What was some of the things that stand out to you looking back that you brought into your own creative writing? I like and
Authenticity, uh, authenticity is dissection was very real, and people heard that. They heard that it was not bullshit. It was real. It came from, and that's what I think try to keep as much as possible with my band now. I wanted to keep this authenticity as much as I could, but at the same time bring, yeah, many things I've learned from him. Authenticity, and then find your own style.
Mhm.
John was, don't give a shit. He was like, don't care about what critics will say and not say. They always say, every time I Dissection put an album out, we got very bad response, and from medias in general, and at the beginning, and then it all switched to something else after. So don't bother. Do what you feel. Do what you want to do, and once you're happy with what you do, doesn't matter. People will like it, and that's another thing I learned from him, because John was not a follower,
Oh,
not at
no
all,
negative.
never. He didn't like that. I remember he wanted to do his own thing. He wanted Dissection to be his own identity, a lot more than he used to do before, and that was the evolution he wanted to have for the band. And I respected that, and I liked it. I like to be a little outsider. You know, Dissection, we're always a little bit like outsiders,
Oh
and
yeah,
I like this position, because I feel like I'm a little bit like that as well. So
yeah.
I
I
totally,
I think I think everyone who's a fan of black metal or just metal in general, like, you kinda stand on the outsides, like, watching other people doing their thing. We're doing ours, and it's we oftentimes we get looked at a little different, but oh well.
that's right. That's right. Um, and then I quitted the band, like I told you, and I didn't play for 3 years or so. And then I decided to play again after a while, and I joined Satyricon, and I played an American, Canadian, and a part of the European tour with them during the Age of Nero era, kind of. Didn't work out, but I think, um, after all these years, I came to the conclusion that I was not made to play in a band, but I'm more made to have my own band.
There you go.
And I'm too stubborn, and I know too much what I want and don't want to do to be playing in a band. Let's put it this way. And I'd rather play with who I want and choose everything from now on. And that's why I created From Chaos, and and I'm happy. I think it's the right way to do. It's the right way to go, because I couldn't picture myself to play very after Dissection. I had a hard time picturing myself playing in another band.
Yeah,
It took me a long time to accept that. I tried it, but I was not happy. And you always compare to what you've had before, um, and
yeah,
what we had in Dissection I couldn't find in another band. Yeah, the way we played, the way, uh, the the way everything was just perfectly played all the time. I never I came to the conclusion that I never wonder how John or Thomas was playing while I was playing on stage. I knew that they would nail everything, and I had just to focus on my own thing,
yeah,
and that I didn't find anywhere else than in Dissection, and I'm afraid I will not find it anywhere else than in Dissection. So I'd rather start my own thing.
yeah. Was there any time after, your experience with Satyricon, was anyone approach you to do, like, some, studio work or recording
I've been
projects,
I've,
anything?
I've been asked many times to join band. Yeah, yeah. I've been asked to join bands, and I've said no to them because it didn't feel right. And even nowadays, sometimes I'm asked to do certain things, but if I don't feel it's right, I don't do it. And I didn't feel it was right. So it's difficult when you leave what dissection went through when I was in dissection was very, very powerful. When it, a comeback after so many years with Rebirth, and then the tour, and then the new album, and then all of that combined was such a powerful experience that when you get in another band after that, it's very, hey, you don't find the same thing, and that's
Right.
normal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's definitely once in a lifetime experience you went
for
through,
sure,
and
for
and
sure,
and and again, like you said, it was a band that many held in high regard, including yourself. It was one of your top bands that you wanted to audition for. You got the
for
job
sure,
and
for sure.
became an
I told
integral
John.
part.
He asked me, and I told him, and I meant what I said to him, between four eyes. I mean, we were only he and I, and I told him, man, I'm gonna tell you straight. I couldn't dream of a better band to be in than Dissection coming to Sweden, and I'm totally honest when I'm telling you that. and he thanked me a lot. But he was what I thought back then, and I still think the same thing today. Really, I do. I still listen to Dissection to this day, and I love it.
Yeah,
So
likewise.
um, yeah, so I mean all of that, and I have such a big amount of respect for the musician he was. I mean, and Thomas as well, because Thomas didn't get the credit he should have get. I think, in my opinion, he was such a good drummer and such stable. He always played the same way, and it was great to play with a drummer like that. When you're a bass player and nothing moves, it's always.
Mhm.
And with John on the guitar doing his thing, Thomas on the drum doing his thing, it was easy, man. It was like, I just had to do my own thing, but I didn't have to think about anything else. Tempo changing and stuff for Thomas never happened. I mean, I toured with a guy and we played so many gigs, but he played with a click, even live. So he was just like, blast beat, no blast beat is always the same. And it's
It was
great when you're a
clockwork
bass
for
player
him.
and you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to. It's like playing with a
Uh,
machine.
I would like to talk about, like, from start to finish, how long, did the From Chaos, like, once you decided that, I'm gonna write material, I'm gonna put it out there for people to hear,
Yeah,
how long did that process take you?
not that long. Um, I came to a point where I'm gonna. I tried to write music before 2023, but it never worked out really well. Nothing very interesting came out, at least in my opinion. So I let it be for a while, and then I don't know what happened in me, but in 2023, it felt like I had to get out stuff in me musically. And I bought a guitar, a cheap copy of a Les Paul, because I didn't. I was like, man, I have to try that again, and it just flew up, and it just came out of me, and like, oh man, and it was riff on riffs on riffs on riffs on melodies and riffs and riffs and riffs. I was like, maybe I should start, try to really sit and do a track and then see how it goes, and then one track and then two tracks and then three tracks, and then I'm like, okay, but I will write an album, because I'm so inspired that I will keep on writing, and that's what I did. And I started maybe in March 23,
Okay.
2023, uh, but I quit because I was working. I was manager in a company, and I left my job and everything, um, to write and to put 100% to that, and to give 100% to From Chaos, because I knew that it will need some time and some energy, and I couldn't do it while working at the same time. Plus, I came to a point when I needed to get back to the music thing, because it's so strong in me that I need to express and I need to play and I need to, and I felt like I came to a point in my life where I was working too much and not playing music enough, and it was like unbalanced. And I need to take this back to what what I did before. And in October 2023, I stopped my job. And from that point, I really started to write music every day, between 3 and 4 hours every day. I would sit and just write music. In January 2024, I had maybe 80% of the album written. And I decided to contact Janne, um, because I had the vision of a very fast drumming. I had some drum machine stuff that I had composed on my demo stuff, but I wanted a real drummer. I wanted something very authentic. And I had this vision of a very fast, aggressive drumming, and Yanni was spot on for that kind of playing. So I knew him from way back, and even before he joined Dark Funeral. So
Hmm.
um, I asked him if he would be interested, and he told me yes right away. And then we tried to match his schedule with Dark Funeral because they're touring quite a lot,
Yeah.
and my schedule to be able to record the album. But Jan is he as well, such a natural talent. That kind of people that I like to be around with. Um, he didn't. I mean, the guy was doing his house and at the same time recording the album. He's a monster. I mean, I didn't touch anything. I didn't change anything. He plays like you hear. He really plays like that. It's not fake. And I was amazed about how he could play on the slower parts that well as well, because everybody knows him for playing very fast, and he can do that. Everybody knows that. But on the slower stuff, I mean, I thought he nailed them as well. It was really well played, and I really loved the way he did the thing. So we did one track. It was Patterns, the first track, Patterns of Existence. We did, and he nailed it. That's the one you hear. That's what you hear on the album, actually. Um, and then we kept on recording. So I would say between March 2024 and October 2024, there in between festivals and tours and stuff, we recorded Yannis drums, and then from October to December, I mixed, and yeah, I did the last thing, and then I put it out.
That's wild.
But
And everything was done in excuse me, everything was done in-house, at like your own studio?
yes,
Wow.
I study sound engineering. When I stopped when I quit dissection, I studied sound engineering in Sweden,
Mhm.
and I have a license that I passed because I was interested into that. And now I could finally use everything I learned properly. I mean, I've worked sometimes as a live sound engineer here and there in Sweden. I did Volturian, I remember, death metal band and stuff, but I couldn't find a real proper job after that. And yeah, so now to get back to this sound thing as well on top of the music is great, because I can finally use what I learned and have fun with it.
And I told you yesterday, I'll say it again, the production on From Chaos's release is just amazing. It,
Oh, thank you.
it definitely you hear just every dynamic within every song and every track.
I tried
You
to.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the modern metal stuff where it's, like, just overdubbed, overproduced.
Yeah, I
It's
didn't
like
want it.
a throwback album, but
That's
with,
what I wanted.
just it's
It's
great.
exactly what I wanted. I wanted people to like, oh man, you can make an album that sounds good without having too polished stuff. And that was the point the statement I was trying to, yeah, you can have a great album, a fast album, that melodic and fast and fast drumming and you know 260 bpm per minute stuff, and but real, authentic. If it's played right, you don't need so many technical stuff around.
Mhm,
I'm glad that I don't know if you know that, but I recorded the bass on an Ampeg SVT 350,
mhm.
and this bass amp I bought it used in France, and it was the amp of a bass player in a band called Magma, and I didn't know that when I bought the amp. The
Oh,
guy
wow.
told me, yeah, this amp actually was, I'm telling you, I didn't put it on the announce, but it was the amp of my teacher, and my teacher was the bass player in Magna.
Wow.
Oh shit, okay. And and that's what you hear on the, and I kept it, and I will keep it, I can tell you that. And because it's an old thing from the 90s, I think. And it sounds great on top of it. It sounds awesome, and it's it doesn't have any lamps in it. It's only transistor stuff, valve state stuff. But it's very it's very easy when you have a studio at home, because you don't have to turn down the signal. You just plug in, and you have a lot of power, which
I
is
have to ask you, as beginner bass player to experienced bass player, uh, whenever you're playing live or whenever you're recording yourself, are there anything extra like gear wise, like pedal wise or effects that you would like to use on anything you do?
yes. There is a pedal that from TC Electronics that is called Dark Matter, which reproduces on, from the beginning. There is two pedals. I don't remember the name of the other one, but I think Paul Gilbert uses it.
Uh-huh.
The other one, I use this one because it has a darker. It has a darker color to it
Mhm.
than the one Paul Gilbert used. That's why I use this one. And I use this pedal on the album. At least I use it on the bass, but I set it very low. I don't put much distortion on my bass, just so
Mhm.
it grows a little bit.
Right.
It does the, but that's it. And then I used the same pedal, but with other settings on my guitar amp as well, which is an orange Super Crash 100, and I use the pedal in it with a little bit of, guitar players. I use a little bit of crunch on the amp, and I add my distortion pedal on top of that to have
Mhm.
some kind of double. And I play with the distortion on both.
Yeah, because whenever you're doing your playthroughs, it just seems like you're able to capture like a really full, fat, and slightly distorted sound. Yeah,
Yep.
it's man, it's so good. Like,
Well,
I'm not saying just to pump you up, but it's in all honesty, watching your videos, like I was watching all the cover you were doing. I was like, man, they sound better than the
well,
original.
I'm gonna tell you my when I studied at university, and I still have to this day the same producer in mind. I've highly influenced by an American producer called Joe Barresi,
Yep.
which is, I think, is the maestro of the production in when it comes to rock and metal in US.
Yep.
Is such an amazing producer, and I did a thesis on the way he used to work, and so I know his work very well, and I tried to learn from those guys, and I learned from him that if you want to have a clear definition and picture in sound, you should divide your sound. You should have your high register in on one channel, your middle register on one channel, and your lows in another, and treat them separately and then mix them together. That's
Mhm.
what I do on my bass.
That all makes sense.
I split it in two in two channels. I I take care of the lows with you know uh, with EQ and compression, and I take care of the highs, mid register, and distortion with the other channel, and then I put them together and mix them together, and that's what you hear on my channel most of the time.
I could take a class from you.
And that's what I do on the album as well. Even on the toms, for the drums, I always split. split the high and I split the lows, and then I mix them together. It takes you many channels on your project, but this way you're able to control everything the best way. If you want more attack, you just go on the high register channel, and if you want more, you know,
Yeah,
you go on the other one, and you have the control of your thing.
that's amazing, man. I mean, I'm getting to know a whole lot more about you and the recording process at the same conversation. I love it. Uh, what I did notice is that you have these a ton of influences that you do for your playthroughs and whatnot. Was there any type of like record, or maybe a few records that you wanted your own project to kind of like not really imitate it, but sound like it in some way? Was there any like anything that kind of stood out in your collection?
No, I wanted to sound like me. I grew up in the 90s where I remember all the extreme metal bands and the black metal bands had one idea in common. It was not to sound like the other one. Everybody wanted to have their own style and their own sound. I remember when Dark Throne came out, Mayhem came out, Dissection came out, Marduk came out, Dark Funeral came out. All these bands were different. Necrophobic came out. They're all different.
All
They
different.
all have their own style, their own sound. And I wanted that. I wanted to recreate my own sound and create my own, I'm not pretending to reinvent the wheel, but I'm trying to do it my own way.
And I certainly believe that you accomplished that with your from Chaos.
Oh, thank you.
Uh, and I just have to ask, like, what is the origin of the name From
Good
Chaos?
question. What do you think? How would you, because I like and I write text in this way. I like when people wonder, but what did it mean with it? I like, well, like Bon Scott used to do that. You know,
Yeah,
he used to double meaning stuff, and I like this kind of.
well, if you're asking me, just knowing what I know and what I recently learned from you as far as your life, you were able to put out this project, this passion play for you, and you've had to come overcome some obstacles in your
Yeah,
life, maybe.
yeah,
And I think, like, from chaos, from a literal sense, from chaos comes this project of of uh of aggressive, extreme, and even melodic,
yeah,
you know, tendencies, I'd
for
suppose.
sure, for sure.
Uh, and maybe, and I also thought that maybe it's kind of a play on Rin Chaos, the Dissection album. I thought of that as well.
Yep,
Am I
you
off the
thought
mark?
right. You thought right. I mean, the meaning behind From Chaos is from nothing can come out something interesting. From the nothingness sometimes comes something very interesting. That's the idea, the main idea. And of course, since I played on Rien Chaos, yeah, there was the chaos theme that would come back. I thought the name fitted, yeah, my way of it fitted the music and my way of where I was back then, and I am very happy with the name actually. Even today, I think it
Great
fits.
name.
Yeah, I'm happy with the name. So and I tried to play. I tried to write the music I'd like to hear. That's I cannot put it in another way. I try to play the music I'd like to hear. Yeah,
Yeah, that's and I love hearing it myself. So
oh,
keep
that,
it up, sir.
thank you, thank you.
Looking forward to you know, do you ever is there any aspiration to take From Chaos into live venues? And
Yeah, there are. I have plenty of ideas. I have a very strange vision on what I want to do. I'd like to, yeah, take From Chaos on the live thing, but I want to do it the right way in a strange location, if possible, or in a big show. I don't want a small thing. I want a big thing, you know. And I'd like to have friends and people I trust and like, to play with me. And it will be. It's not. I'm trying to put out the album first, and then step by step, I'm gonna build something. I have some ideas to maybe do some kind of DVD live video in weird location thing, or in a weird rehearsal, or very dark stuff. I have this in mind. I have this vision. If I be able to do it, I don't know yet. It's not only up to me, It's up to the financial aspect of things as well. If it goes well, yeah, yeah, sure, why
Well,
not?
that's something to look forward to. Absolutely.
Why not? But I want something very. I want a show. I don't want just another concert, and I want something big, like we used to do in Rebirth, and this idea of a big show, Um,
Yeah.
not. I don't usually want to have so many big flame stuff exploding everywhere. It's not the idea. The idea is to have a very, strong experience for everybody. That's the idea. I believe in live, but I don't believe in playing in bars anymore like we used to do in the 70s and the 80s. That's, for me, it's over. This time is over. You need to, I think it's important to play and to try to have the best experience. And to have that, you need to have a certain standard, if you play with one light bulb in a bar, and it's not the same experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I get it.
Yeah. And I'd like to do something really, yeah, special, special in
You
that.
mentioned you mentioned earlier at the top of the conversation that something that you tell your students. Do you instruct?
Yep.
Are you a teacher?
Yes, I teach bass online.
Oh,
Been doing that for a year and a half around. It's people that started to ask me, so I said, yeah, why not? And then one student, two students, three students, and yeah, I give bass lessons online to whoever is interested. Um,
I'm interested.
Whenever, man, no problem. And I always try to adapt myself to the student, to his taste. It's important, I don't want to. I think that many teachers approaches the music the wrong way with the students. It becomes so fucking boring to play music at some point with some of these teachers that it's wrong. You need to have fun when you play music, even if you are learning stuff. You need to
Right.
have this flame and this excitement when you take your instrument, because after a while you don't want to take it anymore if it's just work, And I
Yes.
try to keep that alive when I teach as well. I try to work technical stuff, but on actual real music, which makes the experience a lot funnier than if you're doing boring scales or exercises on paper and stuff. I try
Yeah.
to have a very musical approach when it comes to teach music. And theory, it's good to know at some point, but it can come later. First, you need to learn how to play properly and how to listen, and how to, because a part of playing is to listen to the others and the music around you, and adapt to your way of playing in the music around you. And uh, that's not in one day that you learn that.
No, no.
That takes a bit of time.
Yeah.
And that's why
I mean,
I always recommend to listen as well to bass and music as much as possible.
yeah. I've been playing guitar now for about since 2019. I'm a late bloomer,
Okay.
but I it's something, I'm really passionate about. Really love playing. Love, like, recording crappy riffs in my room,
Okay.
and like, I showed you my bass yesterday, and
Oh,
uh
a gorgeous bass, man. It
oh,
really
thank you so
is.
much.
I mean
Thank
that.
you.
It really is gorgeous. It's not that usual. It's pretty unusual. A satin black in flame like that.
Yeah, I saw it online when I was looking,
Oh yeah.
and I was like, dude, this is it just
Oh yeah.
spoke to me. Like, yeah,
Oh yeah. Oh
this
yeah.
is it.
I understand. I understand.
And but yeah, what and and I took lessons as well, and there was a point in time, like you said, I kind of got uh just bored with the actual, like you said, learning scales, and just getting worn down by just doing the monotonous things, and wasn't really having fun. So, I kind of like um st- started having fun with it by just like playing, and I might have did it, I'm not, I don't know, I might have did it the wrong way by just like, maybe pick up some bad habits as far as like the actual learning, how to play, but I'm still having fun.
Well,
But I'm
the thing is, when you, I mean, it's weird to say that when you play black metal, but fuck it. Um, when you're a musician, you're supposed to be hypersensible, kind of artist, kind of, and um, you should be able, as a teacher, to feel your student and to feel what's need to be worked on and what's not, and what's, you know what I mean. Uh, it's as a teacher, you hear that, and you kind of you orient the student towards the right path, kind of, that's what you try to do. But many teachers don't do that. They're like, okay, did you do the last exercise? Yes, we do the next exercise. Yeah, but you know it's not interesting. It doesn't. You need to have some excitement when you learn an instrument. We are trying to change that. I think some people are trying to change that, but I'm trying to my level to change that, because I also had this, even if I didn't take lessons that long when I was young, but I I found very boring when I see some of the way kids learn music. It's not fun, man. You should have fun. It's important. I think it should
you
be
ever,
a balance.
have you ever encountered a student or someone who, because I know a lot of teachers, like, believe in um kids or adults like playing someone else's music, like just playing covers. Do you ever find a student that's like just have like no interest in doing that and just want to play, something original?
No, not really. I had though, and I have students that compose their own stuff on parallel, on learning base, and they can ask me sometime, what do you think about that, and what do you think about that, and how should I do that? That's not a big deal, but I think you should be humble enough to know and to hear that there is a lot to learn in others playing that you can incorporate in your own afterwards. But so much has been done. When you hear the bass playing of Geezer Butler, for example, in his career, or Steve Harris, all these guys that really changed things in bass playing, even Cliff Burton in
Oh
his
yeah.
way. I mean, uh, when you hear that, you take, you take. I mean, I took a lot from Cliff Burton, and I assume it. I'm not saying I didn't take. No, I did. On From Chaos, I play with the wah and distortion. Where do you think that comes from? It comes from
Mhm.
him, for sure. But I do it my own way. I do my own thing. And that's the best thing you can do, is try to grab, these ideas that people like him tried out before, and incorporate your own way and do your own thing through it. Um, Geezer Butler is such amazing bass player. I mean, he changed bass playing for many, 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 many bass players in the world. Um, he's such an influential bass player that he has everything. Geezer Butler has the groove, he has the melody, he has the harmony, he has the feel, the touch. He has everything. The guy is just a
Everything.
perfect bass player. It's like
Yes.
you want to know how to play bass, listen to Heaven and Hell from Black Sabbath.
Oh yeah.
You
look,
know,
look no
listen to
further.
this album, and then you'll know how you should play bass. Um, and it's amazing. And that's why I try to teach that to students to understand what they did, and then do your own thing and try to learn your own way.
Hmm.
I don't push them to play with fingers or picks, for example. I Everybody is free to. If you want to play with a pick with fingers, it doesn't matter. You play with what you feel most comfortable with, and what you feel best with, and that's just fine. There is no. I don't like this war between picks and no picks and fingers and whatever the fuck. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
there are great players playing with fingers. There are great players playing with picks. Just choose what you like most, and then do your own thing.
I agree. I agree. I agree with you. Everything you just said about that whole pick versus finger battle. I think Jason Newsted of Metallica, he had the best answer for that. He was like, "Look, I grew up playing out of necessity with a pick, and one of his biggest influences was Lemmy. He like Lemmy made it cool to play with a pick,
Yeah,
and I mean, Motorhead was the base was one of the building blocks for fucking black metal of so
for sure,
there you go.
for sure, for sure. Jason Newsted is a very underrated bass player, in my opinion.
Very much
It's
so.
a very, very good bass player that did great things. Um, but unfortunately, he came to a point in Metallica where it was not easy to, yeah, to express himself, I guess. Uh, it's a shame, because I think it's a great. He was a great musician, and it was not an easy spot to just replace a guy like Cliff Burton. That's for sure. I can believe that. It was just very difficult. Did you know, by the way? I'm gonna tell you something. I spent my last evening in the U.S. at Torben Ulrich's house, eating dinner with him and his wife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in Seattle.
Holy shit, that's
Um,
amazing.
Yeah, Molly, which was because he died last year, Tobin. Molly was a customer where I was working in Seattle, and we just it clicked. Sometimes with some people, it just it clicks, and it clicked, and then we just during the whole time I was working there, and she just came to me all the time, and we talked a lot, and Tobin came sometimes, and we talked a lot, and then I told her, well, I'm going to leave the US. I'm going to play music for good and go to Sweden. And then they invited me to spend the evening at their place. And they told me, the last evening in the US, you're going to spend it eating dinner with us if you're okay. And I was like, oh man, that was such an important meeting for me, Torben Ulrich, man. It changed me. This man was very. I felt very inspired by him. It was very original and very inspiring man. Lars was a lucky guy to have him as a father. I can tell you that, because
Uh,
I remember listening to a cover of Tool by a symphonic orchestra and stuff with him. I mean, crazy stuff. Really high. He used to be a jazz musician, and then he was a tennisman,
yeah.
a professional tennis player, and then he was also a painter. And I remember, because we were talking about Jaco Pastorius, I remember seeing the first album. Jaco Pastorius' first album is only his face, and then you have
Yeah, yeah.
Jaco Pastorius in white, and I took the vinyl like that, and I was like, "What is that?" And he told me, "You just need to hear it. That's all you need to do. Listen to that. That you listen to it. That's all. You need to listen to that." And that stayed there until
Mhm.
a few years back, and I found it, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, you were right. I know why you told me that back then." And um, but it was a great memory that I had with Torben. A very yeah. I knew that Jason quitted Metallica before everybody because Molly came down to me and was like, "Guess what happened?" And I was like, "What?" Jason left. He said, "No, no, 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 no. What did you just say?" And she told me, "You will hear it in a few days." But Jason just left Metallica,
Wow.
and I was like, "Oh man!" And it was true.
Yeah.
I never met Lars, and I never even dared to ask Torben or Molly about Lars or Metallica because I found almost disrespectful. I was not talking to them because of Lars. I was talking to them because of them,
Right.
and I felt like it would be disrespectful, kind of, if I was just talking about Lars now.
Yeah.
He knew that I knew, and everybody knew that I knew who he was and what he was doing. And he told me, "Well, when he comes next time, you." But unfortunately, I left US before that. But I was supposed to meet him as well. But yeah,
Yeah. I must admit, like you, leading into this conversation, I knew that dissection was a huge part of your story, and I knew that you were in like I said before, you were an integral member of the band, and you was always talking with Jon, and I didn't want to turn this conversation into a Jon memoriam or anything like that, because you have a story that's all your own, and I felt like it would be disrespectful to just
I
stay
understand.
on that particular subject. As interesting as it is, it would be doing you a disservice, and that's not what I'm interested in doing.
Thank you.
I love to hear about your journey, and there's not many bass players that actually come on my podcast, and I feel as though I have one of my most influential bass players of all time on the show. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Uh,
Yesterday, I had a drummer man that left a comment on my channel, and the guy told me, "Man, I played drums for years, and then I came across your channel. Now I play bass. I just
there you go.
You inspire me to play bass, so I play bass. Okay, that's cool. I mean, one of the goals of this channel is to make bass an attractive instrument again. One of them, that's for sure. And bass is a fun instrument, and is a very interesting instrument if you play it right and if you have the right mindset, and you learn it right. It can be a great instrument. And I play guitar as well, and I don't have a problem playing guitar. I love playing guitar, but bass is something more, has more. I found it has more energy going through. I cannot. There's more melody on the guitar, but I feel the bass has more energy. You know,
Yeah,
um,
definitely feel it.
yeah, you feel more the bass than the guitar, and in that I like to play bass better.
Well, I'm definitely interested. We're gonna have to talk more about maybe me personally getting lessons from you.
No problem, man.
and and, and
I'm used to that.
I have to before I let you go. I have to get 6 albums from you that if you're God forbid your flat caught on fire, uh, which albums are you taking with you?
Okay, we talked about it, so I'm gonna put this one aside for now. Jaco Pastor's first album. You can put this one definitely on this six albums. I would put More the Exodus of the Light, Metallica, Ride the Lightning, uh, May and the Mysteries. I'm at 4 right now. Doo-doo. Trying to think. I have 2 more. Huh?
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't choose Dissection because I was a part of it, but I listened to it a lot. So I fuck it. I put Storm there, and what would I choose next? Yeah, ACDC Highway to Hell.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, that you cannot go wrong with any of those picks. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I love this album. I love the authenticity of this album. I love the sound of this album. If I am influenced by the production, yeah, I love AC/DC's productions,
And
especially the early ones.
such a dark album too when
Oh,
they came back.
he was great. He was great in such an authenticity, a real sound, and strong statement, and everything was just the cover and
Hmm.
everything. It's just I'm tuned the same way this album is tuned. 432 hertz thing. Some albums, well, From Chaos is the first album is on 432 hertz, like Highway to Hell, and Demisteris and Panthera, Vulgar Display, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, that's some next level sound engineer type stuff right
That's
there.
cool. Yeah, that's cool stuff.
That's really cool.
It's interesting.
Brice, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was a
Thank you,
great this
Mo.
conversation could go forward, but I have to go to work.
I understand. I understand.
Oh man, but let's stay in touch definitely.
For sure.
And again, everyone, please, whenever the Brice has his own YouTube channel, he does amazing covers. Extraordinary person, extraordinary bass player. Check out his release From Chaos. Can't speak more highly about it. So
Thank you.
thank you again, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
And you have a great day.
You too. You too.
All
Good
right,
luck.
man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.